My Lord. Do I start from the beginning or do I pick it up from where I left off?
Um, don't really matter. We're gonna go back. We're gonna go back through all of it anyway. So yeah.
Perfect. Good. I'm gonna just keep going where I left off. This is for the class. You know, you got to come to class in order to get the whole thing. So anyway, imported use state from React. So use state is the how you track the changes within the variable within JSON, if I'm not mistaken. It may be a little bit more than that, but that's pretty much what it is. So basically, this is your variable. In this case, is my name. This is by convention to set my name. What you usually would like to do by convention is set your set variable, because this is the changing variable. This is the actual variable. So, or this is actually a function. But anyway, you want to name it the same thing as your variable. So set my name is my little set function. And then use state. This is actually the default value for your variable that you'll be changing, that you're tracking the changes of. So then I came down to my click function that we defined here, that Isaiah defined actually. And at first he had it console login name and console login color. Well, because I want to track the changes within the name for each of these boxes and track the different colors for each of the boxes, I decided to store them inside of these set state variables, right? Or inside of these set state functions, so I could track the changes every time I, run this click event. All right. So now I can, because I'm using a click event to set these variables, I can now use these variables as placeholders because I have default values too. I can use these variables as placeholders here in the background color. And this is the inline styling that he was talking about, that Isaiah was talking about, Diamond, when he was talking to you, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
No.
So literally I'm setting my background color to whatever color the color, this variable that's being tracked by this click event function right here, or this click event function actually, that's being ran inside of this. It's not a prop. Is it a prop? I think it's a prop. Oh no.
Attribute.
Attribute, thank you. Yeah, so attribute. Yeah, so literally the name and color here, because of how we set box.js up to have a name, color, and click event passed into the props, the on click is gathering the name and color itself. So that's why my click event is running correctly. All right. I'm setting the inner text of this header tag right here to my name, and my name is the variable that I'm tracking, the state of. The default value for that is literally the name in curly brackets, just like he has it here. So I tried to replicate this as best as possible. Did not work quite as well, but that's because I didn't do enough with the CSS styling. So this part right here is like extra, right? This part is I'm wrapping this row, or this entire row right here in two columns, and the two columns within the row in this container here. So basically this row helps me to structure the div, and what is it? And I think, and this is the site that I actually used, if I'm not mistaken, this is the site. Yeah, this is the site that I used to kind of, nope, this ain't the site that I used. I lied to you. Oops. Anyway, so I used the site to kind of visualize this. I had a site that was way cooler and looked way better. And as you can see, I was doing a whole lot of trying to figure stuff out. That is not. That is. That is not. There it is not. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to take you through all that. But so anyway, there's other, I think, methods that you can use on this attribute, or they call them hooks. There's other hooks that you can use on this. No, it's not a hook. The use set state is a hook. So this is a hook. But these, I forgot exactly what these called. Anyway, there is, I'm gonna call them methods that you can use on these, on a container, row, and a column. And honestly, the box attributes were defined over here. Oops, not there. Over here. So these are the attributes of the box that was passed into this props dummy variable. I hope it all makes sense, because it barely makes sense to me, but I'm working it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, the reason I'm able to use this container, this row, and this column attribute is because I downloaded Bootstrap. Once I downloaded Bootstrap, then I had to import everything from Bootstrap, and then now you got this here, clickety click click. Yeah. Also, just to be exact, I use colors dot whatever it is to get the hex values for each of the colors from the picture. I was trying to get a little fancy since I figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I see the numbers too, because I actually wrote like blue, red, yellow, green, and I'm like, oh, that probably was a better way to do it. The actual
No,
numbers. Yeah.
so literally all the way up into the very end, I had the exact same thing: blue, red, yellow, green, and blue, red, yellow, green, and what?
That was it. Blue,
Yeah, there you go, 4 colors. Yeah, so I had those 4, but I changed it to exact colors once I was done. And he set up everything else for us, so of course you're gonna export the app. That's the only way you're gonna get it over
and you
here.
didn't use CSS at all.
Oh, I did. So
Oh, I mean, well, yeah.
my background color for H1, if I was to refresh, it starts off as white. That's because I set it over here in my CSS for app. But literally, once you do inline styling, it's gonna automatically overwrite anything that you have here. And the reason I know that is gonna overwrite anything that you have here is because of this element dot style. This is literally the inline styling for each of these. And if I click that, now it's changed to red. So if I refresh, it's white now. But then if I click Mike, it changes to this lime green color, this nice blue color, red, and green. So this element dot style changes because of my dynamic change. Oops. Because of my dynamic change right here. My state changing variable here.
Yeah, my phone. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's pretty insane. And then this is the rows and columns. So this is the container. If I take this container out, I'll literally it'll start reaching towards the edge of the screen. See, the colors reach to the edge of the screen. And honestly, it'd probably be better if I do it like Like you ain't gonna do that. You ain't gonna do that. Start running. Why are you running? Why are you running? Okay, anyway, it's running. So yeah, if I take the container tags out, it's gonna spill over to the side, but the container tucks it into a nice, neat box. I can do it either way. I just threw the container in there because it tucks it in real nice. Makes the boxes somewhat even. And there's a picture representation of this that I was using, but I can't really find the page yet. So yeah. And that is the app, guys. Congratulations. You won.
Good job, Chicken.
Good job. Yeah.
Appreciate you.
So yeah, y'all, you really did a good job. So I want y'all to like, I don't know if y'all had a chance to like do this yet, but like, just like really reflecting on like where everyone was when we first started versus like where we are at, where we are now. Like we went through a lot of stuff, and like everybody can pretty much, even if you didn't fully understand this code, like just understanding any of it is an accomplishment. So yeah, I just want to congratulations to everyone also on just getting this far. So yeah. So yeah, so I'm gonna go back over this. I'm gonna go back over it from where we started, and just a quick comment on some of this stuff. I didn't expect you to use Bootstrap, but it's a good thing you used it, because when you're on a job, you're gonna be using something very similar to Bootstrap, if not Bootstrap. I thought about teaching it, but I figured it was one of those things y'all could just like kind of pick up on. So, and obviously you figured it out. And with that Bootstrap grid, if you was to that is like the main reason people use Bootstrap nowadays, for like the grid to line things up. But you can also do that with Flexbox. You can do the exact same thing. Even like it may take a little bit, like it may be a little bit more involved than Bootstrap, because Bootstrap you just literally add like the stuff like the tags, the row, column, and container. But one thing to just take into account, like if you're in an interview and they ask you like, is there like any downfalls to using Bootstrap? One of the things that I would say is like it comes with, so you downloading Bootstrap means that you downloaded a lot of code. Now
Mhm.
it's insignificant, but like sometimes depending on the project, it can be significant. With React, it's not really going to matter, because I mean you see how much code is in that node modules folder, so it is not really going to matter at all. But um, just something to take into account. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and good job overall. We're gonna do something. We're gonna do it very similar to how you did it, except for I'm just gonna skip Bootstrap altogether. I'm just gonna use Flexbox. So
Oh, cool.
y'all have a chance to see both sides of it, if anything. So yeah.
I was gonna say I read online when they were talking about Bootstrap that the reason that they import things in like this,
Mhm.
React import row from React Bootstrap row, is because they wanted to make sure that you don't bring in the whole library to increase the file size too much.
Yeah, you're right. Actually,
So
you're definitely right
yeah,
about
to help control the file size a little bit more,
that.
I'm
Mhm.
just bringing in each of the separate elements from the Bootstrap
Yeah.
module.
Could you try something out really quick? I want to see if
Heck
something
yeah.
works. And yeah, you're right about that. Actually, that's actually a good point. So on line 6, right? You see where it says column? Like
Yeah.
this import column. Could you surround that with like curly brackets? No, no, not that, not
Oh,
that.
cool.
Just right after the import.
Right. Oh, just right after the oh,
Yeah, that
surround column with curly brackets. Oh yeah.
right. And then do comma and then row right after it.
Oh yeah, that'll work. Ooh,
Right. And then get rid of the column at the end of
yeah.
where it says bootstrap slash, it says React
Yep.
bootstrap slash column. Get rid of
No, I
column.
know exactly what you're going for.
Yeah.
This is the other way
Mhm.
that you can bring it in. And I believe I can do container as well, but we'll just do
Yeah, you
column and row.
can. Yeah, yeah, you can do container also. Um,
Yeah, column and row. All right, cool.
Isaiah,
yeah.
Yep,
um,
that's it.
you were talking about you were going to give us a project that involves Bootstrap in the upcoming weeks or so, right?
Well,
Was that today?
no. I was saying I thought about going over Bootstrap, but it was something that you had to delete that the content. You have to do references to contain. Yeah, but I was thinking about teaching it, but it was one of those things where I was thinking it's one of those things where you can just kind of like pick up on your own.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought the
Well,
reason.
let me ask.
Go ahead.
Mhm. No, go ahead.
Yeah, the reason I landed on just not teaching it is because I felt like it was going to be like kind of like taking up more time. Now with that being said, I have seen Bootstrap taught like literally right after HTML and CSS, and that's so that like you can help people style things a lot easier. Like you won't have to spend so much time doing it where you just using Bootstrap. But like there's issues with it also. Like if you bring in Bootstrap, some of their code is going to conflict with like the code that you write. And then if you run into an issue where it's conflicting, it becomes like a headache trying to fix it. Now it's not a common case, but it does happen. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, so let me just approach this question another way, because I was wondering whether or not that too might be helpful. I was wondering, in terms of the next projects that you give us, is it possible that would you be open to working on a project that I'm trying to figure out at work?
We can talk it over and try to figure it out. I can see if I have any like spare time to do it. It really just depends on how involved it is. And honestly, like we can probably tackle it like as a class, as like a
Yeah, that's I was wondering whether not,
yeah.
because I was thinking, like, as I was starting to work, and I was like, man, this might be something that the class might enjoy. But
and it'd be good for resume. So like, just
absolutely. I mean, because this is a real life issue working, on something a real life tech company is trying to tackle, and it has a lot that we've already worked on, bringing in different APIs and also some of the algorithms that we've worked on. So I thought that might be good, but I can talk with you offline about it.
Yeah, you can throw it in like let's talk offline. Yeah, we and just throw it in like the Q&A or the regular chat or whatever, and we'll just see who wants to work on it and like figure it out from there. So yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll put it in the chat.
All right, cool. I'm gonna start sharing now, and I'll just go over. I'll start from where we left off at last time. Jay, if you can stop sharing.
Oh no, yeah, I got you. I'm sorry, I was.
Yeah, you was using it now.
Hold on. Oh boy. Oh, that's how you do it. Cool. Stop sharing. Boom.
Cool.
All right, we added up.
Okay. So I downloaded this straight from the website, from not the website, from the docs. So I did put some directions in there. First thing you do was open up the terminal, and like I just use a terminal within here and just do an npm install, because we have to install all of the dependencies out of the package JSON. And anytime I say dependencies, it literally just means your app depends on these packages. And these packages is nothing but some code that someone else wrote. So your app depends on some code that someone else wrote. So that's what dependencies mean. It's going to install all of these, and it's going to install everything that these individual like packages of code needs in order to run themselves. So it's going to take some time to do that. Then after this finishes, it should create that package JSON, that package lock JSON, which maps, it does like a map of of all of these. And when I say map, I mean like some of these things use the same package. Like this may use something that this one uses. So instead of installing everything this one uses and then install everything this one uses, the package lot JSON keeps track of which packages use the same one so that you're not downloading like the same one over and over. It kind of makes it more like efficient for and it takes up less space. So yeah, the package log JSON are going to be there and the node modules. While this is loading, I'm going to open up a new browser and go to React docs so that we can go over the project in their website also. The tic-tac-toe one. I did not read it. I meant to read through it, but it's fine because I'm just going to scroll through and we're just gonna go through all of the individual concepts that's in there, and there's some good stuff in there too. Let me.
Question.
Yeah.
So I seen people define variables a couple of ways. Sometimes they'll use the curly brackets so they could like direct JavaScript it, and sometimes they don't use the curly brackets when they're defining variables. And I think you've even done that a couple of times where you use the curly brackets and you did not. When do you use the curly brackets to denote like I'm specifically defining this variable JavaScript style, and when do you like not use the curly brackets?
These ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So
yeah. So what was it? So this is the object destructuring, right? So props is actually an object. The only time we can use these curly brackets is when we pulling out like things from objects. So literally props looks something like this. It's an object with the name set for something. My computer is kind of slow, probably because it's downloading all of that stuff. So as name, has color, some color, and it has the click event, right? So yeah, so anytime we want to pull out these things from the object, the values, we can just reference the keys in here to pull them out directly as variables, just like a shortcut, really.
But I was saying like, so what in the case of the props being in curly brackets, if you scroll back up, some people have the props in curly brackets and then you're defining that some way, shape, or form. Yeah. And then you define that as something, whether it be a number or something, I don't know. But I've seen that before where it's constant.
If you've seen
variable,
then it had to be something like this. Like it had to have like a props like value in there. And they probably just set this equal to the value here. So you can do a few things. If you do it like this, it looks kind of weird, but at the end of the day, it's always set to an object. You have to set it to an object, and you just pull out the key here to set it to the value. You can make a default value also. You can set it equal to 1 by default.
So oh my gosh.
Hold on. Actually, I may be lying. Hold on. No, it's telling me I can't do that. So we can do this in different ways. I may be mixing up it. Wait, does this work? let me check this out in the browser.
I don't think it does.
Let's double check. I feel like, and there's another thing you can do also that I'm about to test out. That stuff is still loading, so definitely got time. So if we do that, and we say props, yeah, it works. And so yeah, so I'm just going to refresh this, right? And I'll just use the default. So if I delete this, like if there is no props key in there, props should default to 1. Props, yeah, defaults to 1. And I think another thing you can do is use the as keyword. Now, I don't think I went over the as keyword. So we'll say we're pulling out props as as some other variable name or whatever. Does this work? Expects comma. Hold on. Let me see. As something. Okay, never mind. I'm getting this confused with something called TypeScript. And TypeScript is like another version of JavaScript that you use in combination with JavaScript. We didn't go over TypeScript either, but it's not like a it's something that y'all can learn. Like it's not something that's like overly involved. But TypeScript is like it's like it's a way for you to control your JavaScript a little bit more, and make things a little bit more predictable, basically. Robust, I should say, because that's the exact thing it does. But yeah, this only time we will use those curly brackets, and we can
So
default
why is it faded out like that?
because it's not used yet. So if I do a console log, yeah, that's just the props. Yeah, now it's being used. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Yo, I don't even. Yeah, I'm lost. Yeah.
But yeah.
Rain, though.
Did this finish? Yeah, it finished. Okay, cool. So now that finished, I'm gonna do npm. I'm gonna do npm start because remember, start is inside of package JSON, and we literally just like I'm showing y'all this like because it's not always npm start. Like some people change these things. Like start is here. So if I change this to like run, like you can't use npm start. You can use npm run. Actually, I'm not even sure we can use run because run is like a reserved word. Let me check. No, you can't use run. So just say run it. So anytime if you ever see anything but start, build, test, and eject, like it says run it here, you have to use npm run and then the name. You can't just use npm run it. If you run it, and it's gonna run this here or should.
Messing script run and see list of scripts run.
Oh, I didn't see that. It should start as normal. But yeah, I'm gonna change this back to start. That's just like I didn't want to I just wanted to show you that because y'all will see it. But and you can still use npm run start either way, but I just leave out the run because like I'm just lazy. So yeah. So it's gonna start that. React scripts start.
Yes.
And it should open this up by itself, but I just wanted to open it up myself, like manually, because I got another browser up. It chooses whatever browser I want to choose. So yeah. Loading. Okay, starting development server.
Now starting.
Let's see if there's anything in the chat. It's funny because like
it's loading. Oh, go ahead.
It's funny because like when I'm at work, like one of the things you're gonna come across is this wait time, like, and it's really, really like annoying. Like sometimes, like even a small, you know how we do a small change and it like refreshes pretty much right away, but like we be having so much stuff in our file that when we press like save, it takes like 20 to like 30 seconds to reload, and it really like takes you off of your momentum. It just like messes it all up, and I've had it load for as long as like 20 minutes, and like when it does that like it's like really ridiculous. So yeah, it's something that y'all might y'all gonna run into, especially dealing with React and Angular. Angular is like React, so just React and Angular, any JavaScript libraries. So all right, so we are clearly not where Jabez was at, but we'll start styling stuff. So let me pull up the picture as well. So this is how it's supposed to look. So I'm noticing that these have very similar, I didn't even know Google would do this. But yeah, these have very similar looks. Like they all have the same height and width here. Yeah, I did not know it did that. But yeah, I'm gonna give these all the same height and width, basically. And I'll style that inside of box CSS. And before I do that, I'm actually going to refactor this a little bit. So the more components we bring in, the more messy this styles folder gets, and like you end up having like 30 to 40 different components in here, and like it's just really like messy. So what you'll see is someone create like a folder inside of the source folder, and maybe name it components, because it'll hold all of the components. And I'm just going to drag and drop, or actually, and inside of this this folder, I'm going to create another folder called box. And this is going to hold all of the code for box. I'm going to drag and drop all of my box stuff inside of there. Yes, move and move this also. Now some stuff going to break, obviously.
I
Because
was just gonna say, you can move it live.
yeah, let me move this. Okay, so I gotta move this inside of the box folder now. And the reason this stuff is breaking is because we referenced box inside of app.js, and we're importing it as if it's in the same directory, and now it's not. So now it's inside of that's inside of components, which has the box folder inside of it. I think I can just save it from here, and it should import it. Oh, actually, I gotta put box, right? The name of the file without the extension. Okay, so now it's back to normal. But like, it's just something good to know that you definitely want to separate out your code. And if you want to add another component, let's say, let me see, any other ones? I'll just put this into its own component as well, just for practice sake. I'm gonna open up a new, yeah, I'm gonna create a new file, a new folder inside of here, and I'll name this heading. Heading. Okay. And this to go inside of, not here, just to go inside of this one. Okay, this is annoying. All right, I'm gonna have to manually move this. It gets annoying to move folders around when like there's not already folders inside it. So here, component, box. All right, I'm gonna copy this and paste that here. I'm gonna delete this as soon as that's done copying. Delete. Okay, all right, so now we got the folder structure. Okay, so we have heading now. So we got box in here and we got heading. I'm gonna create heading.js, create a new file, heading.js, and we need a heading.css. Heading.css. Cool. Wait, I put in the wrong. Do that again. Yes, move it. Okay, cool. And inside of here, I'm gonna take this out, and I'm gonna put that in this one. This is good practice because it teaches you like how to move some stuff around. Sometimes you're gonna have to refactor, like some stuff not gonna look right, and you're gonna say, okay, let me actually move some stuff around. And this is us doing that. So we're gonna import heading.css to bring in that CSS file. There's nothing in there right now. And we're gonna create heading. And we'll do return. We'll return this. Putting it up here like this. and we'll pass in props. We'll pass in like the my name so that we have access to it. And I'm gonna just pull that out of the object that we're gonna get it from the actual props so we can display it. Now I'm going to go to app.js and put heading here, and I'll pass it my name and put that here like that. And this should do the exact same thing after I import heading. I still got to bring that in. Import heading from components /heading /heading. This is the heading.js file. And this should do the exact same thing. It did. Let's figure out what the error is. Heading is assigned a value but never used. Oh, hold on. I didn't export this. The reason I knew it was never used because it's faded out, just like we were saying earlier, and like I never actually referenced it. So export default heading. So now it's not faded out. Save this. Okay, successful, and we have the heading here. And just to prove that that is the right component, I'm gonna just say hey Isaiah instead of hi Isaiah. And hey Isaiah is there. So that is some practice refactoring. So I'm gonna go back to Box and start putting those stylings that I was saying, like making these actual boxes. I'm just going to go into the CSS. Actually, let me go to the JS. We know that each of those boxes are these divs right here. So I'm literally just going to do it like how we normally do it with CSS. I'm just going to give it some ID. I'll just name it box. Keep it simple. Go inside of the CSS. Reference it here. And one thing about like ordering your CSS, like you see I'm putting box on top, I try to keep the order of it like from top to bottom. Like I'm referencing box, so that I think for me that should be on top of any reference to paragraph, since paragraph is inside of box. And that's just one of those, it's not a set rule, but it's one of those like organizational like things that I try to do. So I'll put box here. I'm gonna give it a height of 100. I'm just give it M just so that you get away from using pixels, and a width of 100 M as well. And what you always want to do to check to see how big it is, you want to give it some background color just so you can see it, because you know you're not gonna be able to see it on the screen. And that's obviously way too big. Let me see if let me zoom out. Now, when it's too big, obviously we open up the dev tools so that we can adjust the height here and then just copy it over to the other side. So click on this one. 100M was way too big. I should have known that actually. Let me put 20. Yeah, I'm gonna do 20 and 20. I think 20 is good. Okay. So I'm gonna change this to 20 and 20. Okay. And also in this picture, we have, oh, we didn't put it. I'm gonna just center all of these texts. I'm gonna just put all of these in the center, and I'm gonna increase the font of the text for each of them. So I'll do font size. I'm just gonna say 10M. We can use M for that as well. Let me see how big that is. That's too big. Let's do decrease this. We'll do 7. 7M. We'll even like turn the color to white just because, and I'll use those hex values. Those hex values, right? Remember how I'm not sure if I said this last time, but remember how like these normally have 6 different values. Well, if you have repeats of the same thing, so white is literally 6S. If you have like these in the same, like they're all repeated here. So put in 3 is going to be seen as 6. It's just a shortcut because basically all we're doing is we're taking the first 2 and we're just saying F by itself. We're taking the next 2 and we're just saying F by itself. We're just basically collapsing like it by 2s to turn it into 3. So if you see it 3 or 6, that's the reasoning behind it. So those are white now. Let me center this text. I'm just gonna use Flexbox to be honest. Display flex, justify content, center, align items, center, save. And for some reason, it did not center it properly. Let's see. Okay, because it has, I think it's because it has some default margin.
Yeah, you got default margins and stuff in it.
Margin 0. Why not? I'm just do padding 0. Margin 0. That is, oh wait, I'm trying to center text, and it's like I did this wrong. I got to center the paragraph within the div, not like and the div is the box. I was trying to center it the wrong way. So yeah, this is the actual yeah, so it's centered within the div. I was doing it.
That's why I was getting it wrong.
So yeah, that's that. And I'm gonna give this box some margin also, just to separate those a little bit. Margin, I'm just gonna say like 2 pixels, just so we get like a little something in between each. Okay, cool. So another thing we notice is that we need this to stack up like this. So what I'm gonna do here is use Flexbox to do that. And let's see. And I'm actually going to teach y'all something else while we do this. So I hope I don't like throw anybody off too much. But we're about to refactor this whole thing. You see how we wrote 4 boxes here? Like this is like very repetitive. Like box. Like we don't want that to be like that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a loop within the HTML. So anytime you use JavaScript, you use these curly brackets, and I'm hoping that I'm gonna do this the right way. Before I do that, actually, what I'm gonna do is define a variable up here. And this variable is going to have basically all of the data that we're passing into box. So I'm going to just say box data, like all of the data. And you're going to see what I mean by in a little bit. This is going to be an array, and the array is going to be an array of objects. We'll have name, John. Here we'll have color. And this is how you're going to see it on a job. You're not going to write box. Like you're going to get some data, and they're going to say turn this data into a whole bunch of components, and that's what we're doing here. So like that, click event. Let's say click event, and we're going to pass it a function, which is click. Let me put this. Actually, I think I can do that. I can reference this function before it's here. So let me just put that back so that we don't get that error. Okay. And we'll do something similar to the rest. We'll do Dave, Sam, and Mike. Dave, Sam, Mike. Colors. We didn't give it any colors because I'm just going to use the regular. So blue, red, yellow, green. So blue, red, yellow, green. Right. Okay. So now we're going to loop through this array, and we're going to put all of this stuff within each of those components. And please stop me if I'm going too fast, or like, you know, if you have any questions. So all we did was build this array so far of objects and get rid of this comma here at the end, even though it don't really matter. So now I'm gonna use JavaScript by using these curly brackets, and I'm gonna do box data. Remember how we loop over an array? We can use the for each, and for each has data. So we're going to use the arrow function here, and then we're going to pass it the box. And inside of the box, we're going to give it a name. We got to return the box actually. And from the data, we're going to pull out a few things. We're going to pull out the name. We'll pull out the color and the click event. And obviously I could have put all these on different lines, but it just, for me, it just looks better to see it like this. It looks a little bit more cleaner for me. And I'll pass in the name here. And anytime we reference JavaScript within HTML, we use curly brackets. So we're putting JavaScript within this HTML here, or it's called JSX. I'm gonna start calling it JSX because that's what it is. It's not HTML. It's JavaScript XML. That's the meaning behind it. So I'm putting JavaScript within JSX. I'll just put that here, just as a note, like this is JSX, not HTML. So we'll give it a color for a property, pass it a color, and we'll give it a click event here and pass it the click event. And yeah, I'm gonna delete all of these things now. And I'm gonna hit save, and I'm hoping I didn't mess something up. Let's see. A few warnings. Click was, yeah, see, click was used before it was defined. I was thinking about that earlier. Remember, I was like, I wonder if we can use click before we put the function. So I'm gonna put this function up top. Now, obviously, it don't matter. Like, it really don't matter which order you put it in, but they want you to be very like precise. So I'm just gonna put the function before we actually use it down here. I'll go back here. Oh, another thing. I forgot. So we're using for each. I forgot. So for each. So what this is doing basically, this is the reason it's not showing here, and I'm hoping I'm right about this. I'm thinking that I'm right about it. The reason it's not showing, and it's supposed to show, and is because for each doesn't return anything. Like, remember we was going over for each versus map, and like map, you can make another array out of an array, but for each you can't do that. And I think we have to change this to map instead of for each in order to see that on the screen, because it returns all those components just like I thought it was going to do. And let's
whoa. Slow down, rewind, hold up. Skirt. Map. I don't remember map. Map is like your for loop for JSX.
No, it's any loop, any array. You can use map or for each, one or the other.
That's even in JavaScript. Map
Yeah.
is a JavaScript function.
We went over it way in the beginning. We just don't use it like that because we don't really have a need. We didn't have a need for it. We didn't have to make an object out of an object. Let me just refresh the memory real quick. If we had this, right?
Decent thing.
And we wanted to multiply all of these by 2, we can do a dot map. So we're gonna map over every value in there, and we'll return 2 times data. So now B should be a multiple of 2 for each of these. Now, if we was to do that same thing with for each, it's not going to work. I'm gonna just what's going on? C, paste that, and I'm gonna change this to for each instead. C is not going to be defined because for each doesn't return anything. Since it don't return it, it's not setting it to anything. So and yeah, and this is what I mean. I said this like a few times before, and I probably said it like very like what it wasn't noticeable. So React teaches you how to use JavaScript properly. Like literally everything we do in React, it teaches you more and more JavaScript. Even like this object destructuring, like that's used very commonly in JavaScript. Even this, like map, difference between map and for each. So it's just something to take into account. But yeah, map actually returns it, for each does not. Let me now we have all four of these, and I have to still line them up properly, and that's where I left off at. So for us to line these up properly, I'm gonna use Flexbox. I'm gonna put all of this stuff inside of a div, because I'm gonna make this div a Flexbox, and I'm gonna force it to wrap around all of. I'm gonna force it to have the boxes wrap around. Obviously,
So you can
go ahead.
You can do that because it's not a second parent. That's the reason you can use a second div like that, because you only have one parent, and that's the app. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. As long as the topmost one, yeah, it's a good observation. As long as the topmost one is just one, we good. And like I was saying earlier, if you really didn't want to do that, you can just put it inside of like a blank what's it called, brackets, if you didn't want to just have one thing up there like that.
But you can give them like class names and nothing like that, could you? The blank divs?
No.
I mean, the blank.
That's the restriction, right? Like if we was to put this inside of that instead. Yeah. Actually, I never tried it before. Never tried it. Let me see.
I did, but I don't know if I tried it correctly though.
This would be the equivalent of what you're saying. So yeah, this won't work, because these are those blank things, except for we put a class name inside of there. So yeah.
Right. I tried to pass an ID into one, and it was like, hold on there, brother.
Yeah. And I don't know if I went over this. This says class name and not class. I'm not even sure if I even specifically said why this is happening. So in CSS it's class, but the reason it's class name here is because class is a keyword in JavaScript. This is reserved. The new project that I told you that y'all should go through, it teaches y'all what class is. So we never saw it yet, but I want y'all to go through that new video. I literally, I have it here on my desktop. It's like an hour long. So it's gonna take some time to get through the project. But me teaching the concept is probably like 15 minutes long or something like that. I just gotta edit it. I gotta put the background sound and chop it up into like 5-minute videos and then upload it. And that's gonna take some time to do. So, but yeah.
Oh my.
Once I get those up, y'all gonna know what class is, and that's why we're using class name and not class. So, but yeah, let me continue with this. I'm gonna wrap those divs around. I'm gonna just give this an ID of, I'm just gonna say like boxes, because it has the boxes inside of it. And I'm gonna go to the CSS, which is here. Let me see something. We don't even have that each one anymore. Okay. Let me just put this here. Boxes, display flex, items, center, justify content, center, and this just centers it. But if we want to wrap it, we're gonna do flex wrap and then wrap, and that should wrap those around on the screen. So now they wrap, but the good thing about it is that this is dynamic. So if you give it more space, another one's going to go up top. See, so it collapses. So it makes it mobile friendly, basically, which is really good for this.
So what if we wanted to keep them kind of side by side and have them shrink and grow? You
Right.
know, I mean, like, you know, keep them in the 4 container.
Right. So we can just change the width of the parent to be 60%. Let's say 60%, and now it's here. Now we have to center this box, the parent. So it only takes up 60%. So it's gonna go down or whatever. And we can yeah, let's put this in the center. And this is something I'm not sure if we went over. What's it called? I can either use flex box again, or I can just center this by itself. And I'm gonna just center it by itself. So what this is doing is it's putting some margin for the top and bottom of it as 0. So there's no margin at the top and the bottom. I didn't hit save yet, so that's why it's not reflecting. But this auto means that it's going to put the same amount of padding on the left and the right. So that's going to essentially put the same padding here, margin here and margin here. So it's going to center this whole box as soon as I press save.
Margin, boo.
Yeah. So it centers it. This padding equals this padding. And I can put padding up top and the bottom if I wanted to as well. But you know.
How would you put it up top and on the bottom?
This one here. Change to 20 pixels or something.
Or auto. You could go auto if you wanted to center it.
Like completely centered, then I would just I'm not even sure if auto will actually work. Let's see. No, it doesn't. I would have to use Flexbox for that. I want to completely center it, but then I would just put that I'll put that div inside of another div, and then yeah. Now I'll do that actually. I'll just say parent boxes box div. I'll just do all of this stuff. Put that here, and let's save this, and let's create another div. It starts to get a little messy, but it's fine. Okay, that. And then after we do this, we will have to give this parent div a height and width of like 100%, because we wanted to take up the full height and width that it can potentially. Oh, actually, that worked. Okay, the reason this worked is because divs by default take up the full width of the screen. So since it's taking up the full width of the screen, we see that this is centered like horizontally. But to center this vertically, we have to take up the full width of, we have to take up the full height and width, the full height as well. let me pull up the dev tools so that we can see this. You can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. Go here and look this. So this is the parent div here. We can see that it's not taking up, so it's taking up the full width, not the full height. If I do height of 100%, see, that did not work. Let's see, 100 viewport height. Yeah, this starts to get messy. Now since it's taking up 100% of the viewport height, but since we have this bit up top, now we have to subtract that out. But I'm just not even gonna go through all of that, all those adjustments. I'm just gonna leave it like this. So yeah, let me close this. And now we're gonna give each of these the colors that we passed in. What time is it? It's 11:07. So we passed in colors into box. I'm gonna close a few of these. I don't need all of these open. Just gonna close everything to the right. And I'm gonna edit this. I'm gonna put these down in the next line just so we can see this better. Put this down here. So I'm gonna give this a style. Now do the style. And with the style, so remember how we was using just one curly bracket every time we was doing JavaScript? But with style, so we are, style takes an object basically, like it literally takes like an object as a as a as the JavaScript. So you can pass in the object of CSS rules. Remember, Jay, when you did it, you just did two curly brackets, but that's literally you just passing an object into the curly brackets so that you can use JavaScript within it. I'm just going to do it like this, just so that we see exactly where this comes from. Now, obviously, you're not gonna see it like this on the job. You're gonna see it the way Jay did it. So, like, but I'm just showing y'all just so y'all know. And another thing to
Yeah. No, I was gonna say I was wondering why they used two curly brackets. So I just threw them in there because that was the format that I saw. But yeah, go ahead, break it down, please, and thank you.
So remember how in CSS we use these hyphens like background color. So this is invalid in JavaScript. So we can't do that. So anytime we reference anything like this, we use camel case and to do this. So the background color is going to be the color that we passed in. And so we're going to give it that style of objects. Save this. And now we got those. Obviously, they're not the exact values like before, but you know, we were able to pass those in. Now, the very last thing that we need to do is click one of these, and that we'll just change this blue to whatever, like it. There was a question.
Okay. I think that was a slip of the mic.
All right. So I'm gonna set up these click events to change.
No, it wasn't a slip of the mic. I just want to know, does the colors of the blocks matter?
No, so don't think of the color, like the colors can be anything, right? Now I just did blue, red, yellow, green, because that's how it looked here on the screen. The thing to pay attention to is how we set the background color. When we set it, we passed in color as a prop, and then we used the style attribute to pass in an object to set all of the CSS rules. Like this is our new CSS, like style sheet, so to speak, like this object of CSS rules. So yeah, don't think of like the color, just think of like how like it's done. I think that's the best way to think about it. So yeah, so I'm gonna set up the click event now. Now, obviously, it's already set up here. Like we're just, all we're doing is we're logging the name and color on the other side. I'm gonna open up the dev tools and click this. Hold on. Click this. See Dave red, John blue, Sam yellow, Mike green. All we're gonna do is now on the other side, remember we passed this in as a prop from app.js, where we're logging this here. Now we'll use set state, that what Jay was doing. Now I'm going to first explain why the syntax looks the way it does. Like, it looks really odd. Like let me just write it in here, and then I'll explain why it looks the way it does. So I'll just name this background. I'll just say BG color for background color, right? So the first thing to note, actually let me just write this out. Then I'll start dissecting this. Use states. And we have to import this. Is that imported already? I'll just import it here.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's not.
I'll just import it here because I feel like this should give us the reference that we need, since it's like the top level. So, and I could just import it in here, but I don't want to have to import this into every single file. So I'll just put it in the main one. State is not defined, so I can't import it there. So I'm just going to import it here. like I should have done.
So, man, so even if you import it into the top level file, you still got to import it in every other one.
Yeah. I feel like there should be a shortcut. Like I should be able to just pass this in. Maybe if I pass this in as like a something like this. But I've never seen this done before. Not like that, like this. Like that should work. It might work. Let me see. If this does work, I would not use it like this because I've never seen it used like that before. Let me see. No, I would have to no. This yeah. I would do props, and then I would have to pull it out of props, which is use state equals.
My brain don't work anymore.
See if this works. Yeah, it does work. So what I did was I went here, I passed this in as a prop into app because we're just going to render app here. And then I referenced what I passed in with the props here, just like we did with box. It's the same concept. We pulled out use state and we put it here. But like I would not do it like this because I'm not sure the reason why we shouldn't do this, but I'm sure there's a reason why people never do this. I've never seen it before, done like that before. So I'm just gonna get rid of this and I'm just gonna import it over here. I'm not even gonna go through all of this extra stuff. Just gonna do it like this. Is that capital? No, it's lowercase. Okay. All right. So now I'm gonna explain what this stuff is. So use state. I want you all to think of use state as something that can set like the state of your app. And when I say state, I mean like the current like what it currently equal what is currently equal to. Like for example, like a light switch or whatever, right? Like if the light is on, the state of the light switch is like up, like it's flicked up. But if the light is off, the state or like the state of the light switch is like flipped down or like the off is there. So state, it helps you update. I mean, use state helps you update the state of your component. And if that don't make sense, it's fine because we're going to see how it works and you'll be able to connect the dots. So I'm gonna show you how it works first. Then I'm gonna show y'all why it looks like this. So we have background color here. I'm gonna pass that into heading as a prop. I'm just naming it the same thing, just by convention. We could have named this whatever we wanted, as long as we passed in the variable as it is defined up top. But I'm just gonna use background, BG color. And I'm gonna go to heading. And I'll do style, and then style, and then background. I'm just going to do it inline right here since we already saw the other way of doing it. I'll pass that in like that. Save that. And inside of here, I'm going to use this set color. Now, I know I didn't explain all this stuff yet, but I just want y'all to see that it actually works. And then I'll explain what it's doing. Save this and click red. It's not working. Oh yeah, hold on. Background color. Where did I mess up at? I passed in this to the heading. I'm putting that in here. I did this. Hold on. Make sure I didn't do any misspelling. Oh, I put styles instead of style. See, that's probably why it didn't work. Okay. All right, we saw that it did a default. I don't know why it did that, but we'll. Oh wait, okay. Start off as blue. Okay, cool. So now we're able to do this. Okay, so now let me explain what's happening here. So app.js, we're using something to change the state of our app. Now the first parameter is the variable name that we want to reference. Like this is what is equal to. Now the second one, you can see that there's like a pattern here. This name is BG color, and the pattern is set BG color. We always put set here. This is just by convention. We can name this whatever we want, but like it just looks much more readable when we say exactly what it's doing, and that's just the convention with React. So I would definitely stick to that. Now we can also, so this is the value, like that red, blue, green, whatever. This is how we change the value. Now normally before, when we was changing variables, we was doing something like this. We was doing this equals a different value. That's how we was doing it. But in React, you're not supposed to do this. And the reason you're not supposed to do this is because you want to make I don't want to go too far into it, but it's something called like to make your variables immutable. And let me I want to dive too much in there. I'm gonna stick to what this is doing and not the reasoning behind it, because I don't want to confuse anyone. But
Low key, I kind of wanted to know. Like that was part of the reason I could not understand it like that. But we could do it afterwards though.
yeah. So remember, just to do a high level, remember when we was setting variables by reference and by value? I went over it in like a past video. Like we was like when we yeah, it's going
No
take
worries,
time.
no
It's
worries.
gonna take some time
Yeah,
to,
no worries.
yeah. So instead of resetting this equal using the equal sign, we have to use this here. And like a really quick example, a quick reasoning behind why we do this is because we want to create a new instance of this variable every time we change it. We don't want to just change the value. We want to create a new we want to destroy the old one and then create a new variable with the exact same name and then change the value to the updated value. And like the reason we do it that way is because it helps us avoid bugs. So React already got like this built-in functionality to help us avoid those type of things. There's more explanation to it, but that's like the high level of why we do it this way. So the value is here, which is not set to anything right now. If we wanted to set it to a default, we can put the default inside of here as any data type. This is a string. We can set this equal to a number. We can set it equal to an object. We can set it equal to an array. We can do whatever we want, but we just want to set this equal to blue because we're going to default that to blue. And I'm honestly going to go into box CSS and remove is that part? No, heading CSS. No, it's inside of here. I didn't move this. This has to go inside of here. And as you can see, that still worked, even though it was inside of app. And that's because app is like the top component. So every component underneath app is going to reference all of the CSS inside of app CSS, which is why the heading got the correct one, even though it wasn't inside of the CSS file. So I deleted the background to default that to blue because that's what we did. We defaulted that here using this string. So it defaults to blue. Now, every time we're going to change this to a different color, we're going to use set. We're going to use this function to change it instead. So when we did that click event, we basically what's it called it? We're changing the value of BG color, which is what we happen to have passed into heading. So every time we change the value, this component is going to know that it was a change being made, and then it's going to update. And we're going to do the same thing with my name, right? So instead of putting it as a variable here, I'm going to use this same pattern to say my name and then set my name and delete this, set my name, and we'll set it when we do this. Put that there. So we're gonna set my name and we're gonna set the color every time we click. So hey Dave, hey Don, hey John, hey Sam, hey Mike. Okay, so now that we know how to use this, I'm gonna show y'all why. Any questions on that before I move on? I gotta slow down. Okay, all right, we're good. So to recap, we use state to change the state of the app. This is the value, and this is the function to change this value. And to change the value, all you gotta do is call the function with the new value inside of it. That's all you do. Now, the reason this syntax looks this weird, it looks kind of weird like this. We've actually seen this before, but we haven't seen like this look exactly the way it's looking right now. Like we haven't seen this combination before. This is, remember we was doing object destructuring? This is array destructuring. So essentially, this function returns an array, and then we pass in the values into whenever we go to destructure it. And I'll show y'all an example of that really quick. I'll just say fn for function, and set up an arrow function really quick. And I'll just have this return the number 1, and I'll have it return a function as well. I'll just create another function inside of here. And that function is going to say console log hey or whatever. And obviously I'm using a lot of shortcuts here because this is this is the arrow function minus all of the extra crap or whatever. So this function is returning a value, which is the same thing here, a value, and it's returning a function. It's going to return this function right here. And to take this a step further, what I'm gonna do is see something. I'm gonna make this exactly the same. I'm gonna pass in x here. So we're gonna pass in a value, just like we passed in here. We pass in a value. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna return x here, whatever we passed in. And then when we call the function, I'm going to say, let's see, how can we do this? We call this function. Actually, I'm not even sure how to even set this variable. It's going to take me, I can think of it, but I just for the sake of time, I'm just going to show you how we get the variable and the function. So the same concept, A, B, say set to a variable, I'm going to set to a function. I'm just going to pass in hey here. Pass in hey right there. And if we was to put a debugger here, we're going to see that A is whatever this hey is initially, and we're going to see that B is the function that we're returning. So A is hey, and B is that function. And that's why that syntax looks so odd. So yeah. So that is use state. Any questions on any of that?
Yeah. Let me see.
Went through a lot. I mean,
yeah, you did. And I was trying to like compare what I had did too. Let me see, BG color. So where you use state at, you couldn't use that in box CSS?
I could have.
And it was still,
That's yeah. So that's a good thing to notice, because so the reason I use it in app and not box is because I know app has access to everything I need. Like if I'm changing the name and the color, inside of app is where we actually have heading right here. So we can just directly pass it to heading. But if we was to go inside a box,
it's already imported anyway, so it would have did the same thing.
Yeah, we don't like it's gonna be harder. It's gonna be harder to get the values from box. Like if we had the name and like the color here, it's going to be a lot harder to get that to heading. And I'm not even sure if we can do that. It's going to, because there's 4 boxes. So it's like, which one is going to be used to set the heading? So yeah, it's important to know, like, oh yeah, let's to structure how you have state, the way you have state basically. So yeah, I just put it at the most top level. But yeah, we could have definitely used an inbox if we needed it inbox. So
That was probably the most confusing part for me too, because I know every time I think of styling, I think of CSS, but now that we can use, the colors on app.js, that gets a little tricky. It's getting a little confusing, but
yeah, it's funny because some people, it's one of those things where it's like, it's either you really like that you can use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript all in one file, but some people say like they really like don't like it. They're like, yeah, I don't like that you put it all in the same thing. Like, but for me, it's like, I don't know. I just like seeing it all together. Only because you can interact with it a lot easier. Like you using JavaScript within HTML instead of trying to do document, like get element by ID and
yeah.
stuff. So yeah. And this is just some of what we can do. Like we can put even more JavaScript in here. Like put whatever we want to put, if else statements in here. Pretty much anything, but you can even throw a function in here if you wanted to and fire the function within this and then just display what the function gives you back. So do a lot of different stuff. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you'll get used to writing it over time. So.
And then I try to steal some of the code from the Tic Tac board game on React, and the way I just try to change it, like instead of using the X and O's, I did this dot render square and then passed in the name John, Sam, Dave, Mike. Okay. Did it that way, and I did like top row. Did I delete everything? Because I kind of started deleting as you were doing it. Let me see. Oh, I commented out. Okay, class name. Yeah, I did top row and then this dot render square. It didn't work anyway, so I don't even know why I'm explaining it, but I just thought it would by me just replacing. Oh, mom, watch out! By me just replacing the X and O's with the name. Like it just seemed like it would have worked, but it didn't.
See, so I did say we was gonna go over this. I'm not even sure we're gonna have that time to go over it, honestly.
Yeah, right there.
11:30. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over the concepts that's in here. Let me and I'll just put it into what we already have been doing. So like yeah, here we're even like using class here, if y'all notice. So React can be written 2 different ways. You can use classes with React. So we're using functions. We're using like functions for React. It's called, and the way we're doing it is the way everybody do it now, because classes can get really confusing. Like we don't want to have to think about like we don't want to have to learn. First of all, we don't want to have to learn extra stuff, and we don't want to have to think about how certain things, like the rules behind specific like things or like classes or whatever. And there's a few things behind that. So we're just using functions instead of classes. This is called functional programming. If you ever like hear of it, where you're just programming with functions, which is a lot easier than using classes, to be honest. So, but yeah, let me see if I see anything else. Anything that stands out. So we use class name, we use onClick, passing in JavaScript. We learned about props. And obviously, like the props for class is a little bit different. I wish they used it the functional way, like the way we're doing it here, because it's going to be kind of hard to follow by using all these classes.
I was going to say, and I also don't understand this. I've been trying to understand this
keyword
for a long time. Yeah, the keyword.
This
I don't get that.
So this is a reference to whatever it's inside of. That's the best way to think about it. So this is say, let's say square. It's inside a square. So it's inside of the topmost object is what this is. So this is like saying square dot props dot value. So
I think that helps.
that's the way to think about it. So yeah, it literally looks for like the top, the like whatever is on top of it, whatever is inside of basically. So
It seems kind of unpredictable a little bit.
yeah, and honestly, I even have issues with this. Like this is even talking about it. So this keyword is it's sometimes kind of changes, and I gotta re-look it up and try to figure out why it's doing what it's doing. But to be completely honest, I don't use this keyword ever. Like I rarely use it. So like we didn't use it at all here inside of React.
Right. And even during the class, I've never seen this.
Yeah, I just really
keyword.
don't use it at all. Now we use this when we go to in that other project, the one that I'm about to upload. This
Man,
keyword
I
is
don't
used
want
a
to use
lot.
that.
Yeah, so it'll help
Right.
to go through that, and you'll see why. You'll see how it's used once you go through.
Yeah.
You didn't use
Okay.
render either. It was saying render returns a description like
Oh right.
of the parameters or whatever. Yeah, and that's why I thought render would work, but it probably was other things. That was just
Yeah. So I should have told y'all that there was two ways to write React. I think that's probably where all the confusion came.
You broke out.
This is the older way. Like this, no one uses this anymore. Like they use what I just taught. And like render is a function. That's all that is. It's a function that's returning something. And whatever it's going to return is what's going to display on the page. I learned this before this was even out. So like I didn't even know about this at first. And then once I learned that this was out, this way of doing it, I never went back to the other way. And I've never talked to somebody that said that they went back to the older way of writing it. So it might be useful to try to go through this, but I highly doubt you're gonna see this on a job. Like no one likes writing it like this anymore. And I'm honestly surprised that React is still trying to
Oh, so
write.
this is a project that people always do?
No. The syntax, like the
Oh,
way it's structured, You see how here we have a function and we're just returning something. There is no render. There's no render function on top of it. We're just returning something from the function. But here they have a class, and classes don't return stuff. That's one reason. Like you can only put methods and properties inside of classes, and we didn't go over classes in this class, which is which which is all of that is in the other video. So classes don't return something. That's why we have a function here, and that function is going to return the HTML or it's going to return the JSX. But yeah, don't worry too much about this. But if you do see it, just know that this is like another way to write React. And let me go get my charger because I'm on 10%. I'll be back.
it looks like instead of using button, use on click. Sorry, delete this part.
Little person in the back trying to learn React too.
I know, right?
Look, trying to tell you how to use React. She said, Mama, we don't use classes no more. We don't use that type of function like that no more.
No, trust me, I'm gonna start them early too. I mean, she's not even a year old, but my son, he's 5. Like, don't get right on this. You like being on the computer all day, you code and you want to start coding.
That's what's up. That's a good thing to get them started on. Isaiah, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Let me
question.
Yeah.
Dude, what's the age limit on this class? Is there an age limit? Is it geared more towards adults or anybody wanting to learn?
So I try to like for now it's just 18 and older, and I hate that it's just 18 and older. But the reason is because I need people that's going to try to get a job. Well, two reasons. Like I need people that's going to get a job now. Like it's not like like my goal is to get people in the tech field. That's one. The second reason is because kids like do what their parents want them to do. So if they join a coding class, you're gonna have some that's just there just because the parents put them in there. Like they don't really have any like real
Interest.
interest. You know, it's just
Mhm.
whatever. And I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. You know, it's good to
It is
be
kinda.
exposed to coding, but like it's not going to help as it may not help as much as I want it. It may not help with the goal of what I'm trying to do, basically. If they're not,
Can I
yeah.
can I jump in here? One of the things I'll say to you, Coach Jay, is that we are looking to work with our esteemed teacher on developing a course specifically for some of the young people that you've been doing a wonderful job coaching in the hackathon. So hopefully by this fall, we'll have such a program that will be for younger audiences that hopefully upon their completion, we can, place them in jobs as well.
Like internship type thing, or like
internships, and for those who are old enough, and full-time, entry-level jobs.
Oh yeah, that's what's up. That sounds cool. That sounds cool.
Yeah, even on YouTube, they got coding videos for 8-year-olds and stuff like that. So they definitely trying to start them young.
Render square I.
Yeah.
Confusing. I get it, but I don't get it. And the don't get it part is the
Yeah,
biggest
that was my
part.
setup right there. Zero, it was, not X's and O's, it was numbers. Yeah.
So
Okay.
wait, how you got 3 parents?
Yeah.
You got 4 parents in there. How you do that? Oh no, you don't. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, just one. So it's using this keyword because it's a reference to this. So it's saying board dot render square, and it's passing in a value. And this function is returning some HTML. So they're getting all the HTML in here by calling this function.
My gosh.
Yeah, it's all like tied, like yeah.
And we did a tic-tac-toe game, so we could just export our tic-tac-toe game straight into this, into the whatchamacallit, and dang near just
you know what,
like
that good thing for me to show actually. If I can get the complete code, I can just convert this whole thing to this.
They got the complete code on there.
Got to complete. Okay.
Yeah, it says final result is actually at the top. I thought it was like at the top, to be honest.
all right.
Yeah, that is actually a good idea.
Here we
And
go.
y'all gonna see
Right
why.
there, final result. We are building. Oh,
Okay, here we go.
yeah.
All right, y'all gonna see why people don't use this. You're gonna see all of this code get chopped down a lot, like faster than I'm gonna say. Hold on, let me all right, so we have. All right, so we got. I think all we need is the JavaScript and CSS. That's it. Like that. Okay.
You don't need the HTML.
The what?
The HTML. HTML. The HTML.
Oh no, I don't think. Oh, do we need it? Event click. I'm hoping we don't.
Holy smokes! Wait. Whew. They got a lot going on.
Let me see. So I'm just gonna convert it straight from here. I'm not even gonna like try to copy and paste it over there. So that's what I'm gonna do. So this. So let me first what I'm gonna do is I'm convert square. It's so funny because they're mixing up what we did with what they're doing. So they're using classes, right? Like this is a function. The only difference is that we use arrow function. So I'm a first let me just make sure, like, okay. All right, I'm gonna convert this whole thing to how we saw it. So this arrow function like that. just gonna get rid of those, and this should work exactly the same. Okay. Now I'm gonna convert this one also. Instead of using class, we're just gonna use box. We're going to set this equal to this, the arrow function, and we're gonna get rid of this. We're gonna get rid of render square. Hold on. Actually, yeah, we're gonna get rid of this render right here. We don't need this anymore. Because we're gonna use render when we do the classes. So I'm gonna delete this, and I'm gonna delete this. That's like the end of it. Only thing we need inside of a function is a return keyword. That's it. So let me structure this a little better.
Question.
Yeah.
You can't return multiple times. Return still acts the same, right?
Right. You can't return
So
more.
as soon as I return within a function, it's automatically gonna kick out.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Nothing under there. If I was to put something under there, it wouldn't work. But yeah, this is still the same. All this is still exactly the same. Now we have render square here, right? And we're passing it in like this. I'm gonna go to, I'm gonna change render square. I'm gonna make this to a component as well. And let me put this here, just like we saw it. Arrow function here, like that. Yeah, it wasn't much to do here because we already I'm gonna change this to uppercase. And,
What? Hold up. Did I miss something with the tic-tac-toe in the chorus?
And he would stick up and say, you
Yeah.
need to put that car.
Was this in the chorus?
It
No.
wasn't the course. We just took the tic-tac-toe from the React website, and we're converting it to how we see it here.
Oh,
Yeah. So what we had did before, and we're gonna get these errors, so I'll fix it. What we had did before was we passed in like this to display here. But remember, this is props. So let me first do this here. I'm gonna say render square, and I'm gonna pass in let's just say num, right? And I'll just say num is 0 here. I pass it in with brackets since we're using JavaScript. So num is 0 right there. Let me get rid of the rest of this stuff also. It's gonna be 1, and this one is gonna be 2. Let me get rid of these. I'm gonna change this to props, and I'll pull out num from this. Num equals props here, and I'll put num into here instead of I, because that's what we passed in. And now I just gotta convert the rest of these to be the same way. And let's do that here. So it's 3, 4, 5. Get rid of this. 6, 7, 8. Let's get rid of this. Okay. So what's the cannot read property of undefined reading square? Which line is line? Let me make sure I didn't mess something up. Class name. We got all those components, which is here. We passed in num here, props. This dot props dot squares. Hold up. This is not supposed to be there. Shoot, where did we even get? Oh, it's value. Oh, yeah. Now this is getting tied up. So the value of this. I'm just going to say num. We passed in. I think we're supposed to pass this in like this. Yeah, this is going to get very confusing. This, I'm gonna pass in num, the num that we passed in, and we can, it's so weird that we're passing in a component into here, but we can pass in a component like that. And it's not on click. Yeah, I should have probably looked at all of this code because I know there's a lot of stuff that got to be tied up. Where's it saying now? Let me go back. I'm gonna just comment this out for now. No. Just see something. Okay, all right, so it's definitely something in here. So let me just make sure that the problem is when we bring in render square. Yes, that is the problem. It's me debugging. So since that's the problem, now what I'm gonna do is delete this. See if that is where it's coming from. It's gonna give it a div. Okay, yeah, so it's coming from this square. Okay, so passing it a value. So if we remove this, I think it's this because we didn't pass in, we didn't pass that in, and we didn't pass this one in either. Well, actually we did pass it in, but it's not gonna, take that out, take this out. That's it, or no? Yeah, I think I just made this a lot harder than it was supposed to be. So there's a lot of tied up code here, but more of the story, we should be able to convert a class to an object like very easily. I just got to really go through this code to do it. Yeah, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna go back to the website and see if there's anything else I want to teach for the last 10 minutes. Let's go to hooks. All right, so one thing to know about this, right? Like when we use this use state is a hook. Like and a hook in React is basically like different functions that come with React. Now there's a page that has all of the different hooks. We used use state, but there's other ones there as well that we use.
What's a hook again?
It's basically just they just name it a hook. It just functionality that hooks into React. I think that's the probably that's I think that's probably why they named it hook. Before React didn't have use state, like when I first learned it, and then when they brought it in, they hooked in extra functionality. They basically bring in extra functionality. So now we can use this use state function that React.
So how did you change variables before in React?
We used something called set state, and then we passed in and that was, yeah, we passed in an object, and we passed in like what we wanted to change the state to, like the name to like some new name or whatever.
But you couldn't do initial values and stuff like that.
Yeah, you could you? Yeah, you could do default. I forgot how we did it though.
Okay.
You could do it. It's just easier this way. Everything is.
Yeah, I hear you.
Um,
How long ago did you first learn React, Isaiah?
this was
1925.
no. So I learned it in 2017, 18,
Oh, okay.
2018. Yeah. So hooks is like the new, or one of the newest things inside of React. I wouldn't say it's new anymore because everybody know about it. But like I first, so I was it 2018? I think it was 2018. I was teaching it, and like they wanted me to teach it before they wanted me to teach something new, and like I learned it and taught it like the next day or whatever.
Whoa.
At
Flex.
It was at UPenn. They wanted us to I used to work at a boot camp over there, and they wanted us to diverge from the curriculum and teach them something that we thought the curriculum was missing. And somebody suggested React hooks. And at first I'm like, yeah, I don't want to teach something that, that I never learned. Then I learned it and I'm like, oh wow, I'm never going back to the old way of doing this because this is so much easier than the other way.
Mm.
But these are all the hooks. And you know it's a pattern. They all start with use. So UseState is one we use to change the state. UseEffect. Now, UseEffect is basically like a life cycle function. When I mean a life cycle function, like basically it fires during very specific times. I shouldn't say life cycle because that concept is kind of a little outdated. So just think of UseEffect as a function that fires when something changes. For example, we're changing. We was changing the color in the name. We can set up a function to be fired every time we change the name or every time we change the color, and like stuff like that is helpful because sometimes you want to be able to track when something changes, and that's the very convenient way to do it. So
Is it like a set timeout or set interval?
I'll show you actually. UseEffect. It's not like I said interval, but it's very actually it is actually
Similar.
very similar. You pass it a function, and then you pass it the conditions to fire the function. Now, this function will be fired. I'm just going to say console log name was changed, right? So this is going to be fired every time the name is changed. Now, if I include it into this array contains everything. This array contains what you want to watch out for. So every time my name changes, it's going to fire this function right here. And let me bring this in also. UseEffect. Go to the console here. And there's more to this than just like tracking changes like that. So see, name was changed. Literally every time the name is changed. And I'm console logging that. Let me get rid of it. Where's that even coming from? Box 4. Let me delete that because that's distracting. Box. There we go. We'll need this here. Okay. So yeah, name was changed. Y'all can see. I want y'all to notice something. Like you see, all this stuff is still here. Like we didn't refresh the page, and that's what I was talking about with React. Since we didn't refresh the page, we didn't get rid of any of the console logs that was logged before. I got rid of that console log. We just updated what needed to be updated, and we refreshed the component within the page. So the page was never refreshed at all. And as you can see, it's not printing out those other things anymore. It's just printing out name was changed here. So it's something to know about React. So that's what UseEffect does. Fires every time this changes. Now, what happens? One of the things you might say is, what happens if I don't pass anything in here, right?
Fires forever.
So it's gonna fire one time. So
Oh.
the default is for this. The default is for this to fire. Hold on, let me go all the way up top. Was it here? Yeah. So technically, this fired the very, very first time this fired before I pressed anything. It always fires once. Yeah, so it's gonna fire one time, like it just did here. But anytime after that, it's never gonna fire again. So it always fires one. And the reason it's not
Why?
firing,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
We're on the same page. The reason it's not firing anymore is because we didn't pass it anything to look out for. Like it's not like it defaults to one and say, okay, what now what do I look out for? It's like there's nothing in there, so it's never gonna fire ever again. So
How do you stop it from firing at the beginning?
I don't think we can actually. It always fires at least once. So let's see, if I leave this out, I think this is gonna like fire forever. I don't think it's gonna like stop. So yeah.
Bang, bang.
Let me just do a refresh real quick just to get it. So it fired twice when it first loaded. I'm not sure why I fired twice, but yeah, I guess if you just wanted to fire when anything changed at all, then you don't put anything in there. You just leave it out. So
That may be why I fired twice. Because the refresh of the page, the normal one fire, and then everything popped up and it fired again, I believe, or something like that.
yeah, that probably is what it is, honestly. So yeah, 3 ways to use it. If you wanted to fire every time something changes, if you wanted to fire like only one time as a default,
Conditionally.
and if you wanted to fire for something very specific, like it's only going to fire whenever this changes, and it's always going to run that first. It's always going to run that first function, that initial one.
Cool.
So that is useEffect. Now it is 12. The next class we're gonna go over, and I didn't forget about the get stuff. I still didn't look into that to be honest. But yeah, the next class we're gonna start using use context, and yeah, we're gonna learn about use context because it's gonna be Tuesday, and basically use context is almost like use state. You know how use state keeps track of the state, and Diamond kind of probably indirectly, like she asked, why can't we use this inside of box, like use state, right? So use context gets rid of all of that. Like you use this use context, and you can reference it. You can reference the state within any component. You don't have to care to worry about which component to put the state inside of to get it into another one, because all of the components is going to have access to all of the different variables. So it's basically going to be like a global variable. It's going to be like a spot where all the components have access to it. That's use context, and we'll see how that works on Tuesday. And use reducer is the same thing as use context, except for use context has some downfalls. Like whenever your app gets really complicated, it starts to slow down because use context only does the bare minimum, or what it needs to do to get the job done. Use reducer, it puts in that extra stuff to make your app
Why does it slow down?
because it's lightweight, basically. Like it's only like certain, like just like certain tools are used for certain things. Like you wouldn't use like a jackhammer in the place of like a hammer. Like if I just need a hammer, I'm just going to use a hammer. If I need to really hammer something, I'm gonna use a jackhammer. That's the equivalent of these. This is the hammer and this is the jackhammer. So you don't ever want to use too much, basically, because if you if you use a jackhammer in the place of a hammer, you might end up breaking something. Like that's just think of it like that. There's different tools to do for different purposes. And the rest of these, they're never used. Literally, I've never seen any of these used. I've seen use memo. Well, actually no, I've seen use ref used, but the rest of these, they're like very specific to a situation. They're very situational. You can literally build an app by just using these 3 here without the rest of them. And the rest of them, they're just convenient to have. And that's why, they got them separated, obviously, basic hooks, the ones everybody use, and additional ones, it's like in case you have a very specific situation. And honestly, I think y'all could read these on your own, because I honestly don't even know what these do. So that just goes to show how you just goes to show that you don't need to know everything, basically. So there's any questions in the chat? Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So it's 12. Unless there's any questions, I'll see everybody on Tuesday where we'll learn use context. And I'll stop the screen sharing for questions. And I'll stop recording as well.